This summer saw the launch of Nintendo's newest console, the Nintendo Switch 2. This console brings with it some little quality of life changes, some changes to how you can use the controls, and of course the thing we most care about, some capability changes. The Switch 2 is way more powerful than its predecessor, and this means a lot for a lot of Nintendo games. I mean, we've already seen they took this opportunity to make Mario Kart open world, but it also means a lot for Pokemon, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome back to the post where we talk about all things Pokemon. Today we will be talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 and what it means for Pokemon, because really, guys, there's a lot of potential here. Now, it's no secret that the Pokemon company tends to be a little behind on consoles, right? Like, come on, whether you're here to complain about Scarlet and Violet or not, it's not exactly a secret that Scarlet and Violet, even if you think they're pretty games, are not near as pretty as Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, even after the Switch 2 update for these games. However, the Switch 2 patch for Scarlet and Violet, a free patch that allows the game to run at a higher performance rate and some more Pokemon spawns appear, show exactly where Pokemon could go. Not only this, but the next Pokemon game, Pokemon Legends ZA, will also feature a Switch 2 edition of this game, so we'll have even more insight, probably even more than what we got with Scarlet and Violet, on what exactly this game could look like on the Switch 2, what exactly Pokemon, this franchise rather, could look like on the Switch 2 one day. So first off, let's talk about the increased frame rate. The increased frame rate is huge. Now, I'm one of the people who thinks that Scarlet and Violet's just kind of an ugly game. I think that the game just has a bad art style, a bad art direction, and just overall looks kind of bland. A lot of Paldea does, aside from a few areas. However, with the Switch 2 patch, we see the frame rate of these games increase. So yes, the game still looks the same as it did before, but things are moving a lot quicker. Windmills are working correctly, and just in general, this increase in the frame rate, things moving the way they're supposed to, just does make the game look smoother. In fact, when you're running around on Scarlet and Violet with the Switch 2 patch, it honestly kind of feels like a mod. It doesn't feel like a Pokemon game you've played before. It feels like one of the ones where someone's like cracked their Switch and has kind of updated it themselves. You know, you see this stuff all the time. In fact, it actually looks very similar to a mod someone did of Scarlet and Violet way before the Switch 2 patch that had it running at 60 frames per second. And this is a good thing. Ordinarily, you may not think that comparing a official project to a fan-made project is a good thing, but it is in this case because that fan-made project was doing something that should have been there in the official game. And now, unfortunately, I'm still kind of impacted by the fact that while Scarlet and Violet does run like this now, it didn't at one point. It didn't when I first experienced the game, almost 3 years ago. So, yeah, it made me happy to go, oh, okay, this game runs great now, but it can't retroactively change my first experience with the game. However, the increased frame rate, the way Scarlet and Violet looks, or moves rather, not really looks, but the way it moves, and the way some things look, like the terrestrialization screen in the battles, the way this plays feels so nice. It does have me excited for, say, the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Legends ZA, and certainly the Gen 10 game. These games will be on the Switch 2, at least the Switch 2 edition of ZA will be, and it's going to run like this. It will very, very likely run like this, and experience a game for the first time moving this way will be really, really cool. And I think, maybe it will save me from thinking, if it's the same art style as Scarlet and Violet, maybe it will save me thinking that, like, hey, maybe it's not as ugly as I thought. Now, another little feature that I want to talk about, I think it's kind of an underappreciated feature of the Nintendo Switch 2, is the mouse Joy-Cons. And when I say underappreciated, I'm guilty of it too. I have not used the mouse Joy-Cons so far, but I think that there's a lot of merit to them. So this basically has it where you can literally use your Joy-Con as a mouse, and this could lead to a lot of quality of life changes for the franchise. I remember when Pokemon used to be on the Nintendo DS, and the Nintendo 3DS. And then when we made the jump to Switch, for whatever reason, they decided to remove the touchscreen features, even though the Switch does have a touchscreen. And now when I go through my PC, I have to use the arrow keys or the Joy-Con on it, and I can't just tap and drag Pokemon with my fingers. But maybe with this mouse we can, and we'll be able to use our mouse to click Pokemon and drag and all this, and honestly that could go a long way. And I know that this is such a weird, small, nitpicky thing, but I'm someone who loves to play these Pokemon games well after they've come out. I like to battle with my friends. I like to go online and do the raids, just run around and train my Pokemon even. And part of that is keeping my PC organized. And I know that I have actually let my PC get a lot more sloppy than I would on the DS family systems, because it's not as just easy as just, and now it could be. So yeah, maybe this mouse could bring some really big changes to the PC, and also maybe even to the PC and Pokemon Home. Now, this next piece, I admit, isn't so much as a Switch 2 feature as much as it is just where GameFreak's at right now, but the art style of these future games could be really, really good. I think GameFreak has been kind of having some dissonance from art, like not really knowing exactly what they want to do with their games, what they want their games to look like. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee looks like this. Sword and Shield looks like this. Legends Arceus is a little similar to Sword and Shield, but it definitely gets a redesign, looks like this. Bright Diamond Shining Pearl looks like this. And then you have Scarlet and Violet, which looks like this. But then with Legends ZA, it looks very similar to Scarlet and Violet, just much more polished and honestly better. I told you a minute ago that I hated the art style of Scarlet and Violet, but I'm digging Legends ZA. There's, a few tweaks to the background that I would make, but I don't actually think that might be an instance of art style, and might instead be an instance of the game being entirely set within a city. But I do think that Game Freak kind of finding an art style they like and tweaking it and updating and improving on it could mean that if Gen 10 continues this trend, it could be really, really good, because they found something they like and are mastering it now, instead of changing the art style every single game, just tweaking the art style a little bit. I mean, it's no secret, Scarlet and Violet and Legends ZA, the art styles do look similar, but look at the water in Scarlet and Violet, and then look at the water in Legends ZA. It's so much better in this game, and so imagine when they take the next step with it in Generation 10. I really think that if they were to do this, just tweaked this art style, and, focused on now detailing things more and just making things look prettier than they did in Scarlet and Violet and even Legends ZA, then Gen 10 could be up there for one of the most beautiful games on the Nintendo Switch 2. I think that it could be a game that we look at and go wow, and we're just in awe of, and in the same way that we were when we first saw Mario Odyssey or Breath of the Wild on the Nintendo Switch. Then there's the gimmick. If you're a competitive fan such as myself, one thing you're always asking when you're looking at a new generation of Pokemon is, okay, so what's the gimmick this time? And I think that the gimmick in this game could be wild. The engine of the Nintendo Switch 2 is so powerful, and Game Freak likes to kind of take what's going on with the system and apply it to their gimmick. This is why they started gimmicks on the 3DS, because that hardware allowed for them to do a little bit more with battles, and so they were able to showcase this by giving us gimmicks with Mega Evolution and later Z moves. And then they've stated before that Dynamax and Pokemon Sword and Shield, the reason they decided to make Pokemon just become a lot larger is because the Switch was just so much larger of a console. Now you have it on your screen, your TV, so it's so big, and it works to have a Pokemon become big to represent this. Scarlet and Violet, while never explicitly stated, this came out after the Switch's OLED, and, it even got an OLED Switch edition, and this kind of OLED screen allows for colors and scenery to pop a lot more, which is perfect for the terrestrialization phenomenon, So looking at the fact that Switch 2 engines is way more powerful, I think that the animation and what the gimmick is in Gen 10 could kind of resemble this and be really, really freaking cool. Personally, I want a animation that I don't get sick of watching. If I'm honest, while Dynamax is not my favorite gimmick, it is my favorite animation. I never got sick of seeing that trainer recall his Pokemon, the Pokemon grow into like this big pink holographic ball and him tossing it behind it to become a Dynamax Pokemon. That never got old to me, and I'm hoping that the Gen 10 gimmick sequence will be the same way. Altogether, I really think that the Switch 2 will allow GameFreak to make an amazing game. The kind of game that fans want to see, and frankly, I think even the kind of game that GameFreak wants to make. I don't think, they're that proud of what they're putting out and that they're also wanting to improve it. But when you factor in that they are, kind of seemingly just sticking with the same art style and just tweaking it to make it better instead of scrapping it and doing a complete overhaul for the next game, when you factor in all the quality of life improvements that the Switch 2 brings, the power of the Switch 2, and then throw in a little extra year of development time, because normally Gen 10 will be releasing this year if we stuck to the past pattern of Pokemon. Instead, it seems like it's releasing next year. Then Game Freak seems to be cooking up a really good game. Guys, call me an optimist, but I have high hopes, and I actually really don't think they'll be dashed this time. But I guess you can save this video for later to tell me I'm wrong when I'm wrong. But let's also not forget either that it's the 30th anniversary of the Pokemon. I think Game Freak will be putting their all into this game, just like how they put their all into the 20th anniversary game, Pokemon Sun and Moon, and it paid off, right? Like, fans highly regard Sun and Moon as an amazing game, and also people regard the Alola region as a very beautiful region. So yeah, I think it'll pay off, but come back to me next year and tell me I'm wrong, I guess. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and until next time, I will see all of you later.